Hello, everybody. I am Katie Teitler-Santulo from Ox Security. We are about to start our webinar, A Unified Playbook for Operational Remediation, in 2 minutes. Thanks for joining, and hang tight for a sec. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are going to get started in just 1 minute. We still have a lot of people joining. So we'll be back with you in about 30 seconds. Hello, everyone. Let's get started. Wrong way. I am Katie Teitler-Santulo, and I am here today. Not doing well with slides. I promise to get better. I am here today with two of my colleagues to present to you a unified playbook for operational remediation, aligning people, process, and technology. Before we get started, I do want to remind everybody that this webinar is being recorded, so you can go back and re-listen or share with your colleagues. And also, if you have some questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. If we can get to them, we most certainly will. So once again, I am Katie Teitler-Santulo from Ox Security, and I am very excited because today we are joined by Tomer Yanovich from Simplicity, and together we're going to walk you through a unified playbook for operational remediation. And then we're going to demonstrate how Ox and Simplicity partner, how we are better together in solving a major challenge that all of you probably have, and that's why you're here. And we're talking about specifically operational remediation. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to discuss the all-important PPT, process, people, and technology. You can't have one without the other two. And you can use them to dramatically improve the way your organization handles AppSec remediation tasks. And then once Tomer and I are through, we're going to hand it over to my colleague, Aaron Miller, to walk you through a live demo so that he can show you how this all works, how Simplicity and Ox are better together. So I introduced myself. Tomer, welcome. Thank you for being here. Please tell everybody a bit about yourself.
Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here. So I'm Tomer, and nice to meet you guys. So for my 20-year career, so the first half of it is I was in the telecom industry. The last 10 years in cybersecurity. I've led product teams in Skybox Security, Bionic, which has been purchased by CrowdStrike, and now in Simplicity.
Fantastic. And Aaron,
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all. I'm a sales engineer here at Ox, and really love the product, and I'm excited to show it to you. My background comes from API infrastructure. So I used to work at Kong, which is an open source API gateway, and I worked at a number of different startups that do integrations at the API layer, and very familiar with the challenges that DevSecOps people have. So I'll show you that later. Nice to meet you all.
great. All right, let's dive in. So, Tomer, we're here today to talk about vulnerability remediation. We know that there is a huge challenge, and so many companies have misalignment between their tools, people, and process, because a lot of the time in security, we put tools before people and process. But what really ends up happening is we get delays, we get things prioritized that shouldn't be prioritized. We get a lack of focus because everybody has so much to do. And this issue in AppSec and software supply chain security becomes really, really problematic. And one of the things that we know can help is creating a unified playbook. And when we do that, we have things that we can work off of. We know that we can bring people together by getting everybody on the same page because we have silos, we've got lack of visibility. So talk a little bit about some of the risks, talk a little bit about what people can do to reconnect with their workflows using an operational playbook.
Yeah, so I think we've been having this problem for who knows, it's been a long time, and it still hasn't been solved. And it's not just about the fact that the volumes of vulnerabilities is going up. It's also, of course, the attack surface is expanding. I mean, if we look back in the day, we just used to have the on-prem. And now, of course, we're looking at clouds and things, very dynamic in that environment. Things are spinning up, spinning down. But even worse, probably worse than that, is the whole, of course, application security field, which is now, according to the researchers, that even application changes 100 times faster than cloud infrastructure. And that's because, of course, the process has changed, right? We used to have, back in the days, where we delivered software releases every 6 months, every 3 months, till now we just push code every day, all day. And that obviously means that the business is not slowing down and waiting for security. Business is always going to win over security, we know that. But that just means there's a lot of vulnerabilities out there because of the fast pace of development that's out there. And I think that people have realized that it's not just about the technology and not something that security teams can do on their own. They used to try to prioritize as best as they can, but you can only prioritize so much. I mean, at the end of the day, you'll have to remediate. And I think that part was a little bit neglected. And this is kind of, I think, where the focus is starting to become, to see how that part can become more efficient. And understand that security, of course, is dependent on the other side of the equation, which is the people who are actually fixing those security issues.
Yeah, we really need more collaboration and coordination because, in security, we talk about being overwhelmed. Developers are overwhelmed too. And the lack of unification, the lack of automated processes, not that there's necessarily a lack of the ability to use it, but the mistrust or the distrust is creating a lot of extra work, which certainly doesn't help anybody, right? So misalignment and inefficiencies are pretty common in teams. And we're seeing a bunch of issues that crop up across organizations. I don't know why there we go. I have a very sensitive mouse. So we're having a bunch of issues across the industry, across the board with AppSec, with DevOps teams. And, remediation without prioritization, insights, or coherent workflows creates a big part of that problem. But we also have an attack landscape problem. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think a lot of people misinterpret what attack landscape means when it comes to software development and remediation.
Yeah, so we're seeing that with our customers, and I'm sure you guys as well. I mean, the number of integrations that we have today, it's 127, and it's pretty much going up every day. And it's just because there's so many different tools, because the landscape is so big, different companies, of course, they're going to specify in a subset of course, the cybersecurity segment, because there's not just one company out there that can cover all. And we're seeing, of course, where vulnerabilities fit not just along the CI/CD pipeline, but also, of course, as mentioned, in the cloud, where that infrastructure is always changing, and we've got those dynamic cloud services spinning up and down. So there's never really a time that the network is fixed, that we can say, okay, well, the security posture has been set. We know what's its status, and this is the way it's going to stay. It's always changing, so you always have to keep monitoring and increasing the frequency. So there's also part of the posture looks at the scan coverage. How much are you really scanning out of your environment, and what's the frequency of the scan? Which is very, very important, because if that's not, of course, up to the part, you're pretty much working with data that's unreliable or, of course, not up to date. So attack landscape is not just because, again, it's starting to span across all those different areas, application and cloud, and we've got misconfiguration. We've got the people doing the penetration testing. We've got the traditional VMs, because on-prem is never going to go away. No matter what, there's always going to be 15-20% of the company's resources on-prem. So it's that, the landscape, and of course, the frequency and coverage.
Right. And if you have all of these elements, they're dynamic, they're ephemeral, the software itself is updating, changing, the attackers are updating, changing, there are lingering vulnerabilities, there are legacy systems, and every piece of that, it's just so complicated. Every piece of that grows the attack landscape. And when we have this giant attack landscape without a good process, without a good way to prioritize, we just inherit this technical debt, and it's growing and growing and growing. So we really do need more ways to be able to handle this. If we're looking at this slide, I love data. The growing burden of vulnerability management, dun, 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 seems a little dramatic. But we know, even without looking at data, just from being in the industry, that the number of vulnerabilities and the speed at which they need remediation, they're both increasing, and security teams are overwhelmed. And we know that the cost of addressing vulnerabilities is high, and it gets higher the longer the software development sales cycle, or I should say later in the sales cycle, right? So the later in the development pipeline you remediate, the higher the cost. Why is that?
And exactly, and first of all, also when we have vulnerabilities on certain, for example, packages, once those obviously continue on without getting remediated, there's more, of course, containers using and leveraging that images. So we're pretty much spreading the problem if we're not fixing it in time. And in addition, the longer it's out there, the more exploit kits are going to be developed. Hackers are going to, of course, start to learn this vulnerability and how to leverage that, and use, of course, start making more tools to distribute those exploit kits. So it's really becoming more dangerous. And even one more thing, this is the number of vulnerabilities, that we know that directly impact certain, of course, machines with certain operating system and all those other factors. But a lot of the times it's also we're not even understanding the dependencies the application has behind the scenes, and they pretty much we're opening connections to all those different other applications, and we have no idea what those are. What we call the SaaS security and those backdoor vulnerabilities. And those are the indirect vulnerabilities that are also very important for companies to track because people are very easy with the trigger of opening yet another connection to application to another third-party SaaS application. So that's another kind of hidden threat landscape, more kind of behind the scenes.
It's the Pandora's box.
Yep.
It's the Pandora's box because all those relationships, all those interconnections, all those dependencies, it increases the blast radius. We don't use that term as much anymore, but it does, and it makes things harder. So we know the problem. Hopefully everybody on this webinar today understands the scope of the problem, but let's move to a little bit of a solution here. We know we have a burden. We think that the solution is a unified playbook, and it's all about aligning your technology, processes, and people. So there are 3 key areas here: technology alignment. This is the easy one. By integrating security tools, you can get visibility into all of your vulnerabilities by looking at the relationships, the dependencies. You can look at the vulnerabilities themselves in a prioritized manner. If you have the right calculations on reachability, exploitability, and business risk, it's all about your company. And so this is the easy part because we have technologies. We at Ox think we're great. We think simplicity is great, right? And there are probably other tools that you all have that you love using. So technology is the easy part. Tomer, I'm going to hand it over to you for the harder parts, the process optimization and people empowerment. Talk about how people on this call can really look at their people and process and up level to prioritize using a playbook.
Yeah, so it has to become a really prescriptive playbook because this problem, of course, it's an iterative problem. It keeps, of course, it's never going to finish. It's never going to end. So you have to you put some automation in place that includes, of course, that connection between the technology, the people, and the process. What's really kind of amazing this for me to see is that we still meet companies that use spreadsheets. And when someone, of course, security in 2024 uses spreadsheets, that really gets you to raise an eyebrow and say, really, you still guys are working this way? Because that seems like a very inefficient process. And they have to do it because they've got great tools, but each tool pretty much covers its own domain and prioritizes its own, of course, vulnerabilities. But then you have to put everything together because there's critical on this side, critical on that side. So which one is more important? So then they turn to that spreadsheet. And then also when they try to hand that over to the people who are supposed to fix that, this is also where the friction becomes because they're going to open up the same problem that can be fixed using a single solution. So they're going to open multiple tickets and just throw all these and hand it over to the other side. And it's pretty frustrating to the person who gets that, right? Because they say, well, why did you give me 10 tickets if I could have solved it just in a single place? A single ticket would have been a lot better and much more efficient and a better use of my time. And it's about getting that trust. And because the guys who are fixing things, the developers, DevOps, DevSecOps, they're starting to kind of lose that trust with security because security is just bombarding them with tickets because they kind of want to say, okay, I've done my part, but I'm not just now I'm waiting for these guys to do their part. But this is exactly where it's not working. You need to gain that trust. You need to open them. Those tickets need to be efficient and really respectful to the person on the other side to make the best use of their time. And then obviously that's going to encourage them to be part of the team when it comes to fixing security issues because we know they don't like it.
Exactly. So we really need a good way to communicate. We need a way to get everybody on the same page, and we need to understand that both sides are necessary to enable secure software deployment. And now we're going to talk a little bit about Ox and Simplicity, right? We're going to talk about how we work together and provide a seamless solution from detection to remediation, because Ox Security works across the CI/CD pipeline, works across the development lifecycle. And so our detection and consolidation capabilities feed directly into Simplicity's remediation platform. And it's this integration that reduces the manual effort by quite a lot and speeds up the time it takes to resolve issues. So it's really about identifying, classifying, and prioritizing. So point number 2 here is all about automatic prioritization based on business risk, because not every organization is the same. Not all vulnerabilities can be reached. Not all vulnerabilities can even be exploited based on mitigating controls, right? So our joint solution enables real-time collaboration between security and development teams. And using this playbook, it helps eliminate delays and ensures everyone is on the same page, because that's really, really important. And so when we're looking at Ox and Simplicity, tell everybody, Tomer, what we feel this partnership does for their business. What are the key ways we can help drive value? And then we'll let Aaron show everybody. So it'll be a tell then show instead of show and tell.
Yeah, exactly, because there's also two parts to this part, because on one hand, we rely on quality data. So of course, the findings that you guys discover and all the context that you put in, that's something, of course, that we can leverage. And once we have the data, we consider ourselves, a REMOps tool, remediation operations. So now it's time to see how to act upon it, how to orchestrate it. And part of orchestrating is making sure that we can report and monitor the different stakeholders on the posture, on progress, on the SLA of the findings, the SLA of the tickets, to measure that every person in this process is following the compliance that that the organization has set and that they're meeting it. And orchestrating it in terms of just operationalizing, opening the ticket, syncing the status, ensuring that the ticket has been fulfilled completely and the finding has actually been fixed. We found that we have customers that can spend somewhere between 20 to 40 minutes a month just doing all that per ticket. And we have a large customer that we've opened 14,000 tickets for. They closed 9,000. So just putting that into man hours, I mean, that's a lot, because we've done that automatically. But of course, we have to rely on the good data, and then we help to orchestrate that data into remediation.
Right, all about remediation. You need the visibility up front, you need the correlation, you need good data, and then you need a playbook and a way to orchestrate among people, process, and technology. And now we're going to go to the really exciting part. I'm going to stop share, and Aaron, you're going to show everybody how this works with Simplicity and Ox.
Thank you, Katie. Send a request to share my screen. What I'm going to bring up in just a minute here is the Ox dashboard. And then I'm going to stop sharing and have Tomer show us what it looks like from the Simplicity side. So I'm in my own tenant within Ox. You see that the primary benefit you're going to get out of Ox is the ability to consolidate and bring together, deduplicate, and then reprioritize all of these issues that we all know about. And you simply connect up your source code control, and you'll get 6 scans out of the box. You connect up CI/CD, you get another scan. Registry, you get another scan. And your cloud deployment method, you get 2 more scans. I'm bringing you directly into the issues because this is where the rubber meets the road, right? And I'm going to kind of filter this down by some Spring issues because this is the, Spring, I said. Filter this down by Spring issues so that we can kind of zero in on particular problems, right? Now, as I show you this, one of the things that's interesting is you can see that within Spring, we've got a number of issues over here corresponding to the count. Now, some of those are directs and some of those are indirects. Ox will tell you with our severity factors, and this is where that data is coming from that we're going to pass off to Simplicity here in a minute. And then this allows Simplicity to make certain decisions about how to remediate this. And that's where the power really comes in. You can see that, you can take a number of different actions here from Ox. And then Simplicity is going to take that and amplify it even further. Let me just stop sharing. There's a ton I can go on about Ox here, but I want to focus on Simplicity. So I'm going to stop sharing. And then Tomer, if you can take over and show what this looks like from the Simplicity side. Yeah.
All right. So jumping into the Simplicity platform, kind of give a little bit of a brief kind of description of how it works. So we'll start from the mechanics, just to understand kind of how the data traverses from one platform to our platform. So when we're looking at integration and looking into data sources, we see that the things that we've connected in this demo environment, we've got the Ox connector, which again was pretty easy. All we had to do just to put in the API key, and again, a couple of minutes, it's there. So very easy integration with Ox. And I have another couple other data sources here. And as you can see, for the overall number we have, integration just keeps growing by the day. And it's cross-domain. We span across all the different domains in the cybersecurity. The way we can help our customers make the decisions, we have a couple of ways to prioritize things. We either go by a scoring ladder, or we can go by a priority ladder. You can think of it just as like Jira severities, which is priority levels. Once we have done the collection, you will find that all these findings, and let's focus on what's coming from the Ox environment, we can see them over here. So now that we've built and aggregated all those different findings from all those different tools and created this single, holistic, comprehensive place to view the problem and really understand security posture in a single tool, now it's time to segment the problem according to the way one would want to report and how to create those different remediation streamlines. So we find, and as we kind of talked about this a little bit in the conversation, every organization is built differently in the way they want to handle things, report on things. So we see that different with every customer. So here I just created a couple different options, just to, so you guys can get a feel of how that might look. So if I kind of want to look at it from like an XSPM view and want to split my issues between CSPM and ASPM, I can do that as well. I've created another way to do that between cloud and code by different offices location, if someone again has any preference over there, different SaaS applications. So a lot of different ways to go about it. So for example, when I look at the ASPM, here I'm just looking for everything that's just basically Ox. This is of course, my demo environment. And here I can create all those different filters to filter the data to really focus on what's important. Now, as mentioned, we bring the information from Ox. We see the severity over here, and we wanted to focus on Spring. So let's do that. Let's go back to it's okay. And let's add here. So now I see the Spring issues that Aaron showed in the Ox security tool. We can see all those different findings. If I, of course, drill down into one of those findings, I'll get all the different details provided, of course, by Ox. So we see that this is, of course, the Ox. And if I click over here, this URL will take me back to Ox, assuming, of course, I have access and permission to access the tool. This would be the environment it's coming from. This is the specific resource it's coming from. I can see the severity. I've got the status over here. This is the discovery time and all those different other timestamps relevant. Also available over here is how to remediate it, provided by Ox, and some other information we have over here. So very, very rich information that we can see over here. We also have some integration, of course, with different threat intelligence that they haven't shown. We can jump to that at the end. So all this information can be leveraged to prioritize. And for example, the way we do that, it's if we go to our different rules, I can create different rules over here that leverage all those different attributes of the finding. And then I can decide what's either going to be, if it's a score or a priority. So it's kind of much more accurate if you look at a fixed risk score, because usually in risk scores, you're not sure why it's 74, why it's 68, what's the difference, exactly how it was determined. And here you specify exactly what are the attributes that you care about and what the outcome would be. So if I got, for example, and I've created different filters over here, something that I want to look at CISA-KEV plus the EPSS is over 90, I can look at that as well. And then I can use that filter for a specific scope if I want to, and manipulate the severity, which will, of course, impact the prioritization, how tickets would automatically open to the fixers. A couple other things worth mentioning over here. The different, so I've shown the filters over here. I've created different ones. In the resources, we'll see the different resources also, of course, coming from Ox. And that means, of course, Ox has scanned different parts of the repository. Will show with it, of course, the different packages as a resource for that matter. The different roles, as I mentioned, is the different automations that we have. For example, we can start by making manipulation to the data as soon as it comes into our platform. Some people want to automatically get rid of findings that don't have fixes and put them as an exception. So again, that saves time, that automates that process. If you want to define, of course, SLA for things that are critical or any other thing, because again, it's very flexible, just any combination of our scoping and filter that you create, you can set the specific SLA, and that's for the entire finding lifecycle. And we also have customers that want to track the SLA ticket. That's pretty much measuring the people who are responsible for fixing the issues. So if you want to kind of break apart the finding SLA into the overall finding SLA and the ticket SLA to understand, again, the performance of the people involved in this process, that's also possible over here. And in this case, I just created an SLA rule to track, to make sure that I have a due date on tickets that match this filter. So as mentioned, we've aggregated all this problem into this one place for all the different tools. We've broken it down to the way the organization is structured and the way it's functioning, so remediation swim lane, and how one report to different stakeholders. And now it's time to take a look at the problem and start to convert it and look at it from a solution point of view. Because as we mentioned, a lot of the problems can be fixed by a single solution, of course. And of course, as Aaron mentioned, Ox also has aggregation capabilities on our part. And now I'll show the aggregation capabilities on our part. So in the Ox, and let me just filter for Ox. So in the Ox environment over here, I've aggregated a few things that already have the same issue that can be fixed by a single solution. And that would be, for example, if you want to make sure that you fix a package. So, for example, Log4j, you would fix it in one place. And of course, that's going to create the single fixed image, which would distribute to different containers. But it's a single fixed of the Log4j. Here, I just aggregated all these unapproved licenses into a single issue. And what that's going to do, it's when I open a ticket, I'm going to open a single ticket for this one, and that would encompass all this information over there. There's another example over here that aggregated different issues from the Ox, spanning across, again, different 5 resources over here. Before jumping open the tickets, also want to show another thing. The way also we can automate, of course, opening the tickets, we will create remediation queues. In this example, of course, this queue is paused because I don't want to open tickets automatically now. But what's going to happen over here, I've created a queue for everything that's coming from the ASPM, and matching this filter. And I've got these findings, which are candidates to go into this queue. And once I've defined the queue, the size of it, for example, 3 tickets, that means that when I start this queue automatically, there's always going to make sure that there's always only 3 tickets open at the fixer's hands. And this is because, again, we don't want to bombard these guys on the other side. We want to make sure that we're opening the tickets according to the capacity that the fixing teams have. And the way that we'll prioritize, of course, opening the tickets is going to be by the severity and by the SLA, by the findings age. And we have a few ways we can play with it, whether that's SLA age and also according to the size of the aggregation, that's flexible. And once, of course, the ticket is open, as mentioned, we're also always going to sync the comments coming in. We're going to sync the status, so people can always see where the ticket stands, and you don't have to kind of bug the person on the other side to say, hey, what's going on with this? You can just come into the platform and take a look and see if there's any movement with that finding. All right, so one more thing over here, back to the finding. Let's look at from Ox. So let's say, for example, that if I know that I have a single solution for all these guys over here, so let's see how many of those we have. Let's mark just 4 of them just for the sake of this example. Now we have the capability, of course, in simplicity to create those rules automatically. So we want us to do this manually, but just to show kind of reveal the process that's going behind the scenes, it also can be done manually. Then I can come and aggregate these findings. And again, as usually, we're working with the customers to understand how they want to do this. If they want to look at same problem across different resources that has the same solution. And here we are leveraging also AI capabilities, because once we aggregate multiple findings, we try to make sure that we find the most common ground in between them, that we provide a contextual title and description and remediation. Because sometimes it cannot be the case if the findings are a little bit different. So we'll make sure that we leverage some AI capability that we can regenerate, of course, the different description and title, just to provide, again, something that's very contextual that the fixing team can work with. I would then aggregate, and now these few findings are going to become one. Now, let's say we want to open, of course, a ticket. So I will select this one. And as I mentioned, that, of course, can be done automatically if I just switch on my remediation queue that I've just shown. But let's just show the process manually to understand how it works. For here, I've connected Jira, but obviously there's support for all the major players ticketing. So there's ServiceNow, Azure DevOps, Zendesk, Monday, Ivanti. So pretty much support for all these guys. And now what I can do also, it's map different values, different attributes of the findings into the ticket. Of course, we have some default templates and stuff like that, but if people want to, of course, modify the information, they can do that as well. I can put in the different assignees if I want to decide who to send them to, all different custom fields, and I'll create, of course, the ticket into Jira. There's also, of course, other ways to notify. There's also ways to notification. We can go into that as well. We can also send, of course, Slack notifications, email notifications, but for this demo, we'll just focus on the ticketing side. And now that we open the ticket and look at it in Jira, again, I didn't assign it to anyone, but we can take a look at the resource description that's included in here, the attachment of a CSV that's contained all the data, and that's customizable, of course, as well to decide how many data to include over there. And again, any changes going to happen over here. Then if I look back, and now I can see that I have a ticket that its status is in backlog in Jira. And when somebody moves it and it's becoming in progress and done, that's going to, of course, going to be impacted over here. And here I always have the information of the ticket in case I want to come back. So I've got the status, I've got the sprint. If I had an assignee, I will show the assignee. And if I put in a due date, I will see the due date. Any attachments or comments coming from Jira are going to be synced here as well. And it's bi-directional. If we want to push comments to Jira to ask them, hey guys, what's up with this? In case it's not moving as fast as possible. Last part with the dashboarding, of course, always have to track the posture and see, of course, if we're meeting our requirements. And of course, upper management, different stakeholders require different ways of reporting. And we, of course, want to measure ourselves to make sure that if the process that we've implemented in place, to make sure if it's efficient or not. We can see, for example, how many of the findings we have decreased just by doing the aggregation. And again, this is just a demo environment, so it didn't increase too many, but we've got customers that we've decreased 90% of their criticals. So again, it's just depends on the data that we get. Here we can take a look at it from a scope point of view. So scope can be, again, a business unit, an application. It can be a segment of the security if you want to look at a specific XPM. So again, depends how the customers want to slice and dice it, or they want to report it. You can take a look at the breakdown of the findings, and not just who has the most critical, but a lot of times the things are very interesting to see who has the highest ratio of critical, because that takes into consideration also the number of resources under that scope. That can be sometimes a very good metric to see if this scope is having problems or not. A breakdown, of course, from all the different state data sources that will bring in information. And if we're looking again at AppSec, we can take a look also kind of breaking down the AppSec. If again, with customers more focused on ASPM, sometimes again, it's more CSPM teams that we're starting with, it really depends. And of course, customers can create as many dashboards as they want, create the different widgets that we have out of the box. Also a lot of things around SLA and trends, and also the ability to create, of course, custom widgets as well. That was a very quick rundown of all the platform, but hopefully it was clear, and open to any questions, of course.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tomer. Thank you, Aaron. For those of you on the webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to enter them in the chat. If you want to talk directly with either of our experts privately, we can set that up. Just reach out after this webinar. And as a reminder, this is being recorded, so we can supply you with the replay so you can go in and hone in on any of the things either Aaron or Tomer showed here today.
Yeah, thank you, Tomer. I especially like the ability for Simplicity to track the SLA. I hear about that from our joint customers frequently. Really powerful way to make sure that you're optimizing your processes and not bugging people before they've expired their SLAs. Yeah, that's always appreciated.
Yeah, and it's really also about again, the quality data, again, that you guys provide, and that allows us to really kind of filter and zoom in on really the stuff that's critical, and also to do very meaningful and powerful aggregations to focus on the solution side and consolidate as many things as possible, hence, thereby reducing the noise and being a lot more efficient with remediation. Which is again what needs to happen more and more, because again, as mentioned, you can only prioritize, of course, so much. But yeah, it's really about understanding kind of the root cause of the problem, and a lot of the time, really, it's kind of a chain reaction and a spread of from that root cause. So just kind of plugging this one hole can a lot of the times fix many issues derived from it. For sure.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree 100%. Yeah. The other thing I like too is I get the feeling that, all the decisions and all the business logic that, Ox and Simplicity can kind of overlay and automate, they're also auditable, right? You can go in and like, if somebody says like, well, why did you deprioritize this? Or why did you increase the priority of this? You can see exactly why, so when it comes time to, explain yourself to somebody else, maybe an auditor, you have that data to back you up, and you can go in and modify and improve your processes over time with that data too. Very nice.
Yeah, yeah, exactly that. And once there's a lot of more kind of traction and movement around defining, we start to fill in the history of who changed what and who did what. So
Yep.
that's trackable, and that's important for auditors as well. Yeah, we have that, of course, also in the level of the platform, the activity. So every time something moves, because we know, how people need to report on that, and also they know that we do a lot of magic, behind the scenes. So they want to make sure everything is tracked and modified, and
Yeah.
all that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is just our AI consent, and we got ability also to customize sub statuses and the threat intelligence enrichment that we have. So there's other stuff to the platform that kind of help with the enrichment part as well.
No, super powerful. Yeah. I notice we're up on time. Yeah. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Tomer. This is like super helpful.
This is great. And again, thank you for all of you joining us today. We really appreciate that you took the time out live. Let us know if you have any questions following. Reach out, and we'll be happy to get you to the right person. So everybody, it is Wednesday, October 30th on this live demo. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are. And we hope to hear from you soon.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Tomer.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you.